Welcome to the lecture series on digital communication. In the previous lecture, we have studied how to calculate probability of error for BPSK signal. So before that, we have derived the expression of probability of error for BPSK signal. Okay. By using the error function and the Q function table, we have also solved some problems on the probability of error. In the today's lecture, we are going to study the next digital modulation technique, which is quadrature phase shift keying or quadri-phase shift keying, that is in short QPSK. Here we are going to study how to generate and receive the QPSK signal, and we are also going to calculate the average probability of error for QPSK signal. Okay. We always go for M-array modulation techniques whenever we want to minimize the required channel bandwidth. Whenever we want to minimize the channel bandwidth, we always go for M-array techniques. QPSK is basically an M-array technique. QPSK is an M-array technique in which we are making use of 4 message signals. Here we are making use of 4 message signals, and in one symbol interval we are transmitting 2 bits. That is, 2 bits means it may be 00, 01, 10 or 11. Okay. In case of BPSK, in the same symbol interval we will be able to transmit either symbol 0 or symbol 1. Okay. That's why QPSK is called as a channel bandwidth minimization technique. So in M-array technique, other than in addition to QPSK as a basic M-array technique, we have a M-array PSK, M-array QAM, and also we have a minimum shift key. These all technique, they utilizes the channel bandwidth effectively. In fact, they are called as a channel bandwidth minimization techniques. Basically, this technique produces a modulated wave in the following form: S of t equal to Si of t into cos 2 pi fct minus Sq of 2 into sin 2 pi fct, where Si of t is called as the in-phase component, Sq of t is called as a quadrature component. As we know that basically we are using the orthonormal basis function to do the modulation of the input bit stream. Depending upon whether the orthonormal basis function contains the cos term or the sin term, we have in-phase component and the quadrature component of the modulated wave. Now let us see how to generate the QPSK signal. QPSK is nothing but it's a combination of 2 BPSK in parallel, or the parallel operation of 2 BPSK modulators produces a QPSK signal. Okay, let us divide this BPSK transmitter in 2 parts. By that we come to know that the upper part contains one BPSK modulator and the lower part contains another BPSK modulator. Usually the input data given in digital communication is in the form of the ones and zeros. Suppose I am giving the input as 100111. The first function in the QPSK is the given input sequence is divided into odd bit sequence and the even bit sequence. Okay, even bit sequence and the odd bit sequence. So this demultiplexer is converting the serial data into parallel data, that is the even bit sequence and the odd bit sequence. All of you know what is the role of the polar NRZ level encoder. Basically it converts the input bit stream in the form of waveform, means it represents one by a rectangular pulse of positive amplitude and duration, you can say TB. 0 is represented by a rectangular pulse of a negative amplitude and duration t. This is how the input bit stream is converted in the form of waveform. so that it should be transmitted over the channel. Okay. In the upper stream, you come to know that there is a product modulator, and even in the lower arm also there is one more product modulator. So what this product modulator will do is that the output of this product modulator will be a BPSK signal. So in the upper arm, so this product modulator will phase modulate the even bit sequence, and this product modulator will phase modulate the odd bit sequence. Means here the 2 times the phase modulation of the input sequence is taking place. So output of this product modulator will be a BPSK signal, output of this product modulator will be another BPSK signal. And we know that after BPSK modulation of the input bit stream means what? If I want to transmit, suppose here this one is first number, this is odd bit, second bit is 0. If I want to transmit this 0 bit here, then after the phase modulation, 0 bit is transmitted after phase shifting the carrier. Here we are using a sin 2 pi fc as the carrier sin. So after phase shifting the sin by 180 degree, we transmit 0 bit. Means what? The phase shifted means like this, 0 is transmitted like this. If suppose the next bit sequence in human bit is 1, here 1 is transmitted without any phase sequence, means only we are transmitting sign without any phase change like this. Where in the odd stream also, first odd bit is 1. Here we are using the odd function, here we are using the carrier as a cos 2 pi fct. So to transmit this bit 1, we transmit the carrier without any phase shift, means cos without any phase shift, suppose 1 cycle. Next odd bit, let me say it is 0 now. So 0 is transmitted after 180 degree phase shift. So the cos is phase shifted by 180 degree, means it comes here. Okay, like this way. So this way we are transmitting the bit 1 and 0 after phase modulation like this. So output of this phase modulator will be 1 BPSK signal. Output of this you can say lower arm is another BPSK signal. When you combine these two, then the result will be a QPSK signal. So the resultant QPSK signal will not contain more than one signal. It contains only one signal or only one carrier with the different phases. This is how we generate the QPSK signal. Now let us see reception of a QPSK. Once the signal gets transmitted, we know that along with the original signal S of t, we are also receiving the additive white Gaussian noise. Okay, what is S of t? As I told that in QPSK we are transmitting 4 message signals. That is, it may be S1 of t, S2 of t, S3 of t and S4 of t. So here what I am going to receive is, we may be receiving S1 of t plus W1 of t, S2 of t plus W2 of t, S3 of t plus W3 of t, S4 of t plus W4 of t, like that. So along with the message signal S1, S2, S3, S4, we are also receiving the noise as the input signal. Okay. Basically the BPSK receiver is QPSK receiver is a combination of a 2 BPSK receiver. Okay. So in the upper arm we have a in phase channel and the lower arm we have a quadrature phase channel. It is only because here we are using the cos as the basis function and here using a sine as in the basis function. This carrier signal, this orthonormal basis function phi1 and phi2, they require the phase reference of the basis function phi1 and phi2 used at the transmitter. Means usually the local carrier in the receiver always requires the phase reference of the transmitter carrier. Then only we call as a synchronous modulation, synchronous transmission. Okay, then only called as a coherent modulation. Okay, so here the in phase channel contains this correlator. This is a correlator, combination of product modulator along with integrator. It is going to form a correlator. The output of the correlator always observation vector x1. How you write x1? x1 is nothing but it is a product of x of t into basis function phi 1 of t, x of t into phi 1 of t. The result of this will be either plus square root of e by 2 or it will be minus square root of e by 2. Okay, output of this will be plus square root of e by 2 and minus square root of e by 2. Similarly, at the lower arm it also contains this correlator, second correlator. Output of this second correlator will be x2. It is similar to x1. This x2 will be product of x of t into now phi 2 of t. So output of this second correlator will be also plus or minus square root of e by 2. Square root of e by 2. Okay. Here what you want to receive is odd stream, odd bit stream you want to receive here, and you want to receive the even bit stream here. Then the decision device, which is set with threshold value equal to 0, it compares the value of random variable x1 with the 0. If x1 is greater than 0, in that case the receiver makes the decision in favor of symbol 1. If x1 is less than 0, the receiver makes the decision in favor of symbol 0. Similarly, at the lower arm also, here if the value of x2 is greater than 0, which is threshold value, then the decision will be taken in favor of symbol 1. If the value of x2 is less than 0, the decision will be taken in favor of symbol 0. So the output of these two BPS, the output of this decision device will be an odd bit stream and the even bit stream. Okay, this is given to the multiplexer. In turn, the multiplexer converts this parallel data into serial data. So the output of this multiplexer will be transmitted binary sequence only. Here the multiplexer is performing exactly opposite operation of the demultiplexer. The demultiplexer, which is used at the transmitter, converts serial data into parallel, where here multiplexer is performing parallel to serial conversion. This is how the reception of the signal is done by making use of this coherent QPSK receiver. Here we are using a synchronous detection, synchronous reception, because the transmitter carrier and the receiver carrier, they are phase locked. Now let us see that in QPSK, basically we use only one signal, that is SI of t equal to square root of 2e by t cos of 2 pi fct plus 2i minus 1 into pi by 4. Okay. Here, by keeping the value of I equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, you can have 4 signals, S1, S2, S3 and S4. You will get 4 signals where the S1 signal will be given as cos of 2 pi fct plus pi by 4. So if you put I equal to 1 here, you will get cos of 2 pi fct plus pi by 4. This particular signal may be I am going to use to transmit or to represent d bit 10, for example. Similarly, by keeping I equal to 2 here, you will get cos of 2 pi fct plus 3 pi by 4. You will get here 3 pi by 4. This phase reference I am going to use to transmit or to represent the d bit 00. Where by keeping I equal to 2, you will get here cos of 2 pi fct plus 5 pi by 4. This phase reference of the carrier I am going to use to represent the d bit 01. Like that way, by keeping I equal to 4, you will get cos of 2 pi fct plus 7 pi by 4. So this 7 pi by 4 phase reference of the carrier I am going to use to transmit the d bit 11. Okay. Now this particular equation contains cos. Just you split this by applying trigonometric formula, then you will get 2 cos terms and 2 sin terms. 2 cos terms and 2 sin terms. Okay. From this, you will be able to get 2 orthonormal basis functions. 2 orthonormal basis functions. Just see that is square root of 2 by t cos 2 pi fct is one basis function. This is written here. Phi 1 of t will be first basis function, nothing but square root of 2 by t cos of 2 pi fct defined for the interval t equal to 0 to t. Okay. And the second orthonormal basis function will be from this second term, that is sin term, square root of 2 by t. Okay. Square root of square root of 2 by t, square root of 2 by t sine of 2 pi fct. So the second basis function I written here. Okay. Once you know the phi 1 and phi 2 now, you can express this signal si of t in terms of the basis function. Like I can modify this as, once you take this square root of 2 by t cos 2 pi fct as phi, what is the remainder now? Here square root of e. What is the remainder now here? Square root of e, okay, cos of 2i minus 1 into pi by 4, okay, into phi 1 of t. What is phi 1 of t? Square root of 2 by t cos 2 pi fct. Minus here in the bottom side, again once you take square root of 2 by t sin 2 pi fct as phi 2 of t, then what is remainder now here? Minus square root of e into sine of 2i minus 1 pi by 4 multiplied by, this is multiplied by what? Phi 2 of t. Okay. So this is how basically we can express the signal si of t in terms of addition of the two basis functions. Okay. Here you come to know that by keeping the value of I equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, cos of pi by 4 will be 1 by 2, cos of 3 pi by 4 will be 1 by 2, cos of 5 pi by 4 results in 1 by 2. So the result of this will be what? It is nothing but you will get square root of e by 2 with the sign either plus or minus. This is basically nothing but the magnitude of the two signals S1 of t and let me say S2 of t. Similarly here, by keeping I equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, sine of pi by 4 will be 1 by 2. For any value of I, this results in 1 by 2 only. So the result of this will be either plus or minus square root of e by 2 only. This is nothing but basically the magnitude of the four message points S1, S2, S3 and S4. Okay. Here the magnitude of the coefficient. Now the next job is to calculate the coefficient of the four message points by making use of the Gram-Schmidt orthogonalization. So you will come to know that the coefficient of the four message points we can express like this: square root of e cos of 2i minus 1 pi by 4. Second coefficient is minus square root of e sin of 2i minus 1 pi by 4. Okay. So here by keeping the value of I equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, we come to know that the result will be, as far as for the basis function phi 1 it is concerned, we will get a plus e by 2 from here, and from the second point, that is for the second signal or second basis function phi 2, by keeping I equal to 1 here, the result will be minus square root of e by 2. This is how the magnitude of other message points will be either plus e by 2 or minus e by 2, that depending upon the phase angle 3 pi by 4 and 5 pi by 4, and also it depends upon whether it is a cos or sine. Okay, so this is a signal space characterization of a QPSK signal. Here I have shown the d bits 1 0, which is represented by phase pi by 4, d bit 0 0 represented by the phase 3 pi by 4, d bit 0 1 is represented by the carrier phase 5 pi by 4, and d bit 1 1 is represented by the phase 7 pi by 4 of the carrier signal. Once you know this, the coefficients of the message signal and also the magnitude of the message signal, one can represent it in a signal space. Signal space is basically area of a 2 pi only. Signal space contains what? It contains the orthonormal basis functions. Here are using two orthonormal basis functions, and we are going to show the peaks of four message points. Here we know that the peaks of the four message points will be either plus e by 2 or minus e by 2. So this distance from the origin will be always represented in terms of energy. Distance from this point to this point will be plus square root of e by 2. Distance from this origin to this side is plus square root of e by 2. This side it is a minus square root of e by 2. There it is minus square root of e by 2. So it is forming a square, perfect square. Now I want to represent the message point 1 1 in the signal space diagram. Okay. So for 1 1 we know that the phase shift is 7 pi by 4. We are using a 7 pi by 4 carrier phase to represent 1 1. Here the coordinates of the message point corresponding to basis function phi 1, it is a plus square root of e by 2. Corresponding to basis function phi 2, it is also plus square root of e by 2. In the signal space, always we show the basis function perpendicular to each other. This is basis function phi 1, this is basis function phi 2. So I want to represent now the message, the debit 1 1. Okay, so it is represented as, on the phi 1 axis, the magnitude of the signal S1 is plus square root of e by 2, and the phi 2 axis, the magnitude of the message signal S1 is plus square root of e by 2. So here, therefore combining these two, we will come to know that the debit 1 1, the message point will come here. This is how we represent the message point in the signal space diagram, by knowing the peak value of the coefficient of the signal S1. Similarly, if I want to represent debit 1 0, for debit 1 0, on the phi 1 axis, the magnitude of the message signal will be plus square root of e by 2, and on the phi 2 axis it is a minus square root of e by 2. So on the phi 1 axis it is a plus square root of e by 2, means this is this, and on the phi 2 axis it is minus square root of e by 2, means this. Okay, so plus square root of e by 2 and minus square root of e by 2. So the combination of these two, nothing but it is a debit 1 0. This is how we have represented the 4 message points in the signal space diagram. Okay, basically these 4 message points are placed at 90 degree apart, means the phase difference between the message point, this message point 4 and message point 3 will be pi, it is pi by 2. The phase difference between the message point 3 and the message point 2 will be pi by 2. Message point 2 and message point 1 will be pi by 2. How you got that? Theta equal to total signal space is of 2 pi divided by m. M is nothing but 4 here. Number of message signals are 4. So 2 pi divided by 4, nothing but it is a 90 degree. Okay, it is 90 degree. It is not necessary that, okay, it is not necessary to show the message point, first message point here. Instead of that, we can show the first message point here, second message point here also, third message point here, fourth message point here, because the phase difference between these two message points is pi by 2. Between this and this also pi by 2. So we can also show the signal representation of a QPSK this way also. Okay, once you show the message point like this, then next is a decision boundary is very important. Here the one decision boundary is passing through the origin, second decision boundary is also passing through the origin. Therefore, the total signal space is divided into 4 different regions. Region 1 belongs to debit 1 0. So whenever we transmit debit 1 0, if it falls in region Z1, the decision will be taken in favor of 1 0. Then suppose if you transmit debit 0 1, if it falls in region Z3, the receiver takes the decision in favor of debit Z1. This is how the total signal space is divided into 4 different regions. Now let us see how to draw the QPSK waveforms now. Suppose the input binary sequence given is 0 1, 1 0, 1 0 and 0 0. This input binary sequence first of all divided into, the first operation in QPSK is divide the given input binary sequence into odd number sequence and the even number sequence. So here first bit is, this is odd bit I have taken 0, second odd bit is 1, third odd bit is 1, fourth odd bit is this. First even bit is 1 here, second even bit is 0, third even bit is this, and the last even bit is this. This is how the input binary sequence is divided into the odd number sequence and the even number sequence. This is basically the in phase component. This is basically the in phase component, and this is a quadrature component. Means here we are going to use cos function, here we are going to use the sine function. Okay, you know that in the BPSK how we represent the 0 and 1 by making use of a polar NRZ encoder. 0 is represented by a negative rectangular pulse of we represent by a rectangular pulse of a negative amplitude. 1 is represented by a rectangular pulse of positive amplitude. Okay, so here the next bit is 1, again next bit is 1, is represented by positive rectangular pulse. Next, the last bit is odd bit is 0, so it is represented by a rectangular pulse of a negative amplitude. Let us assume that the amplitude of the rectangular pulse is unity. So here it is minus 1 multiplied by cos, result is minus. So the 0 is transmitted by after 180 degree phase shift. So it is a phase shifted. Just see that it is a phase shifted. Cos is phase shifted. Next bit is 1. So it is a positive amplitude. Positive multiplied by cos, positive. So 1 will be transmitted without any phase shift, means it is transmitted as it is. Okay. This way the other bits 1 will be transmitted, that is without any phase shift. 0 is transmitted with the phase shift of, just see that, 180 degree. Okay, starting from here. Similarly in this side we are going to use how this 10 is encoded by polar energy. 1 is encoded by a positive pulse, okay, of unit amplitude. 0 is represented by a negative pulse of unit amplitude. Again next bit is 0, so negative rectangular pulse. Third bit is also 0 bit, so negative rectangular pulse. So here we are using a sine function, okay, positive amplitude, pulse of positive amplitude multiplied by sine, so it will be sine. Therefore in BPSK we transmit 1 bit without any phase shift. Here is the sine, so it is starting from 0 without any phase shift. We have transmitted this. Whereas the next bit in the sine bit sequence is 0. It is having a negative amplitude. So negative multiplied by sine means minus sine. So the 0 is transmitted after 180 degree phase shift. You just see that sine signal is phase shifted by 180 degree. So it is a 1 cycle, 2 cycles I have shown. Again the next bit is 0. It is transmitted after 180 degree phase shift. Again started 1 cycle, 2 cycles. The last bit is again 0. It is transmitted with a 180 degree phase shift. Again the 2 cycles. This way the lower BPSK modulator will produce another BPSK signal. The combination of these two will be the resultant QPSK. Now how to draw this QPSK signal? Okay, how to draw this QPSK signal? In the QPSK, just remember that now let us take 1 cycle of a cos signal. Okay. In this, usually we know that the bit 10 is represented by pi by 4. Let me say pi by 4 is somewhere here, dBit 10. Next dBit is 00. It is using a phase of 3 pi by 4. So this is the dBit 00. Next dBit is, so this is 10 pi by 4. It is making use of a pi by 4 phase shift. Okay, pi by 4. Next dBit is 00. It is 135 degree, nothing but 3 pi by 4. 3 pi by 4 will come here somewhere here. Next dBit is it is 01. It is making use of a phase shift of 5 pi by 4, nothing but 225 degree. And the last dBit will be 11. It is using a phase shift of 7 pi by 4. Okay, 7 pi by 4. It is this. So here in the given input sequence, let us consider the first dBit as a 01. For 01, what we will do? The signal should start from this point. The signal should start from the QPSK signal should start from this point. So it is starting from this point. Just see that. It is starting from 5 pi by 4. For 01, we always use a phase of how much? 5 pi by 4. It should start from here. So 2 cycles. Okay, this is pi. Again here to here, this completes. Okay. Next dBit is here 10. For 10, we use a pi by 4. Means the signal should start from this particular point. You can just see that this is a pi by 4 point. So from here starts. Okay, completes here. The next cycle comes here, completes here. The next dBit is again 10. For 10 again we use the phase shift of pi by 4. Again is starting from the same point. Comes here, it ends here. Okay. Whereas the last dBit is 00. For 00 we usually use 3 pi by 4 phase shift. It is to start from this point. This point. Okay. Please just remember that. You should start from this point. It is starting from this point. That is 3 pi by 4, 135 degree. So it starts here, 1 cycle, then 2 cycles. This is how the resultant waveform, this resultant QPSK signal will be a single signal or single carrier with a different phases. This is 5 pi by 4, this is pi by 4, this is, you can say, 3 pi by 4. This is how the QPSK signal contains a single carrier with a multiple phases. Okay. Now, how to calculate the probability of error for the QPSK signal? So the calculation of probability of error for the QPSK signal is similar to the BPSK. In the BPSK, usually we are transmitting the dBits, 1 or 0. Okay, there we have, along with the transmitted signal, we all of you know that basically the noise always get added with that, and therefore if you assume that the distribution is of a Gaussian type, then the two signals we have, the two signals will have this Gaussian, the distribution of the two signals will be of this kind. Okay, this is, so the distribution of the, okay, let me say here for example. Okay, so we know that in case of BPSK we are transmitting symbol 1 or 0. Because of the addition of the noise, what will happen? Okay, we have considered the symbol S1 having the expected value of plus square root of EB. If you remember for BPSK, then the expected value of the signal S2 is minus square root of EB. The region of this signal S2 will be, we have taken as R2. The region of signal S1 we have taken as R1. Okay, so whenever we transmit symbol 1, this belongs to symbol 1, this area belongs to symbol 0. Whenever you transmit symbol 1, if it falls in region R1, receiver always makes decision in favor of 1. But if the symbol 1 falls in region, you can say R2, the decision will be taken in favor of symbol 0. This is an error. Whenever we transmit symbol 0, if it falls in region R2, the decision is always taken in favor of symbol 0. But if the symbol 0 falls in region R1, which is of symbol 1, the decision is always taken in symbol 1, in favor of symbol 1. This is an error. As far as the BPSK is concerned, we are working with symbol 1 and symbol 0. But in case of QPSK, we are transmitting not a single bits at a time. We are transmitting the bits. Okay. So here also, in case of BPSK, it was very easy to determine the erroneous area to calculate the probability of error. But in case of QPSK, as we are transmitting the 4 symbols, as we are transmitting the 4 messages, and there are 4 different regions. Suppose if you transmit the symbol, if you transmit the message, if you transmit the dBit 1 1, what is the probability that the if you calculate the area of probability, in that case the dBit 1 1 may fall in region Z1. If it fall in region Z3, it is an error, because the decision will be made in favor of dBit 01. If the dBit 1 1 falls in region Z1, the decision will be taken in favor of, you can say, dBit 10. If the dBit 1 1 falls in region Z2, the decision will be taken in favor of in favor of dBit 00. Instead of this, in this case, what we are going to do is that we know that these areas what I have shown is, this is the area of a correct reception. Okay, these areas are called as a area of a, because just see that in case of DPSK, okay, let me say this is the Gaussian curve for the message for the symbol 0. We call this particular area as area of a correct reception, okay, or the area of a current reception. If the symbol 0 falls in this region, always the receiver takes the decision in favor of symbol 0. Similarly, in QPSK, instead of calculating the you can say the probability of error for the region, you can say these 3 different regions, we calculate the probability of a correct reception. If the dBit 1 1 falls in this region, which is defined for the, you can say, the dBit 1 1, okay, this is the area defined for the dBit 1 1. So we have to calculate out the probability of the correct decision for dBit 1 1. If I calculate the probability of the correct decision for dBit 1 1, then the total probability will be probability of a correct decision or the correct region plus probability of error, always equal to 1. By knowing the probability of the correct reception, one can calculate the probability of error by P will be equal to 1 minus DC. If you subtract, the probability of the correct reception or the current reception from 1 will always come to know the probability of error. Okay, so this is what we are going to follow here. As we know that the output of the correlator will be observation vector x of t, and this x of t is given by, basically it is the output of the correlators will be two observation vectors x1 and x2. Okay, so this observation vector x of t, basically it's a combination of the original signal si of t plus w of t, where si of t, it can be s1 of t, which may be the signal S1 or S2 or S3 and S4, whereas W of t, we are assuming that it is additive white Gaussian noise, which always adds along with the original signal. Okay, so the observation vector x of a coherent QPSK receiver has two elements, x1 and x2. This is the output of the correlators at the receiver side, where x1 we can define like it's a product of x of t into phi 1 of t. This is what I already told. This is what I already told here. What is x1? What is x1? I told it is a product of this x of t multiplied by phi 1 of t. What is the x2? x2 is nothing but a product of x of t multiplied by this phi 2 of t. Okay, so this is, so here x1 will be x of t into phi 1 of t. Okay, the result of this will be what? This results in plus square root of e by 2 plus w1. So the result of this will be what? It is a square root of e by 2, because for any value of pi, this cos of pi by 4, cos of 3 pi by 4, cos of 5 pi by 4, cos of 7 pi by 4, the result of this will be 1 by 2. So the result of this will be square root of e by 2 plus w1. Therefore, the expected value of the signal x1, the expected value of this random variable x1 will be either plus or minus square root of e by 2, depending upon whether you consider angle pi by 4, 3 pi by 4, 7 pi by 4, 5 pi by 4. Okay. Similarly, the second element of the observation vector x is x2 equal to, it is 0 to t x of t into phi 2 of t dt. Here also the result will be plus minus square root of e by 2 plus w of. Okay. W of 2. As we know that usually how to calculate the probability of error for the signal. We know that it is the standard equation of that. That is, it is given by probability of error is defined as, for the Gaussian distribution, we define the probability of error as, we define as P equal to, it is P equal to, it is 0 to infinity. Okay, it is 1 divided by square root of 2 pi into sigma square into e to the power minus of x1 plus, it is, here it is a minus square root of mu x bracket square divided by, again here, sigma square. So here what I am going to assume is now that the elements of the signal vector, x, they have mean value equal to square root of e by 2, either plus or minus square root of e by 2, and the variance of this particular signal will be n0 by 2, because here we are assuming that the mean value of the signal or the random variable x1 and x2 will change because of the presence of the white Gaussian noise, and therefore the mean value of this random signal x1 and x2 will become plus or minus square root of e by 2. Okay, with the, we can say that they are having a power spectral density equal to n0 by 2. Okay, the same thing I written. Thus x1 and x2 are sample values of independent Gaussian random variable with the mean values equal to plus square root of e cos 2i minus 1 pi by 4 and minus square root of e sin 2i minus 1 pi by 4 respectively, and with a common variance equal to n naught by 2. With common variance equal to n naught by 2. So here by this formula, here what we are going to do is that we are going to put the variance of this signal, variance of this random variable x1 will be equal to n naught by 2, and the mean value of the random variable x1 will be e by 2. Okay, this is what we are going to substitute at the place of this mu x equal to square root of e by 2, and the variance will be equal to n naught by 2. By substituting this for random variable x1 and x2, we will get this. So this multiply by this, this multiply by this. We need to calculate out the joint probability here, Then this particular equation of probability of the correct reception, it is not in a standard form. The standard form of equation is this. It is 1 by square root of pi. It is basically the error function usually we define like this: 1 by 2 ERFC, 1 by 2 ERFC of u equal to integration from u to infinity of e to the power minus g square into dz. Okay, so whenever you are calculating the error function of, let me say, of this kind of a signal, and if you want to calculate out this area start from u to infinity, then the probability, the error function for such kind of Gaussian function is defined by this formula: 1 by 2 ERFC of u equal to u to infinity of e to the power minus g square into dz. So this particular equation is not in standard form. We need to convert this particular equation in standard form. For that we are doing substitution: x1 minus square root of e by 2 divided by square root of n naught equal to z. Similarly, x2 into minus square root of e by 2 divided by n naught equal to z. So if you do the differentiation of this equation, okay, you substitute here value of x1 equal to, here value of x1 equal to, you can say 0. For x1 equal to 0, you will get a value of z equal to minus square root of e by 2 n naught. Similarly, here also you come to know that by putting s2 equal to 0, you will get a value of z equal to square root of e by 2 n naught. Okay, then differentiation of this equation with respect to this, you will get a dx2 equal to dz into square of n naught, and dx1 equal to dz into square root of n naught. So if you substitute the value of dx1 equal to square root of n naught into dz, and dx2 equal to square root of n naught into dz, and by substituting there for this particular term x1 minus square root of e by 2 divided by square root of n naught as z, you will get the new modified equation of probability of correct reception is this. This is in a standard form, where this lower limit represents actually the u. It is represent what? U. Okay, then this is going to represent u. Therefore this value equal to, therefore 1 by 2 ERFC will be equal to, okay, we are going to substitute what now? So the next value will be this. The next value will be 1 minus 1 by 2 ERFC divided by e by 2 n naught. So what is the value of u here? E by 2 n naught. As I told that here, we are taking the lower limit is nothing but u. The lower limit nothing but u. So what is u here? This u is nothing but, it is a minus square root of e by 2 n naught. So therefore, by putting this value and then modifying it, you will come to know that the probability of the correct reception will be given by this equation. It is 1 minus 1 by 2 ERFC. Why it is square? Because here we are calculating the joint probability of random variable, you can say random variable x1 and x2. So 1 minus 1 by 2 ERFC in bracket square of this. So if you solve this, you will get this. As we know that when E divided by 2 n naught, where E indicates the energy of the transmitted signal per bit, where n naught is power spectral density. Okay, if this ratio E by 2 n naught is very much greater than 1, we can neglect ERFC square E by n naught term. This, if you neglect this term, then the probability of the correct or the current reception of signal S4 of t is going to become this 1 minus ERFC of this. Hence the probability of error, once you come to know the probability of the current reception, one can calculate the probability of the error of the debit S4 of t. So it is a 1 minus of that, will get ERFC of square root of E by N naught. So if you do 1 minus PC, what will get here? ERFC of E by 2N naught. This is the probability of error of debit S4 of t. Okay, so this way we are assuming that the signal S1, S2, S3, S4 are symmetrically located in the two-dimensional signal space diagram. Why it is two-dimensional? Because here we are using a two basis function, so it is called as a two-dimensional. Therefore, if you are assuming that they are symmetrically located, then the probability of error of debit S1, probability of error of message S1, probability of error of message S2, probability of error of S3 and S4, they are equal. If all four debits occur with equal probability, it means probability that debit 0, 0 will occur is 1 by 4, probability that debit 0, 1 will occur is 1 by 4, probability that debit 1, 0 will occur is also 1 by 4, probability that debit 1, 1 will occur is also 1 by 4. Okay, therefore the probability of error will be 1 by 4 multiplied by probability of error of signal S1 of t, S2 of t, S3 of t and S4 of t. So what is that? Probability of error of S0 of t will be equal to same ERFC of E divided by square root of 2N naught. So here if you put ERFC into square root of E by 2N naught plus ERFC into E divided by 2N naught plus like this, and if you solve it, you will come to know the average probability of symbol error of QPSK signal is equal to ERFC into bracket E by 2N naught. We know that in QPSK system there are 2 bits per symbol, means in one symbol interval we are transmitting debit 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1 like that, and hence transmitted signal energy per symbol. Here what you consider E is transmitted signal energy per bit. Okay, so here the transmitted signal energy per symbol is twice the transmitted signal energy per bit. Therefore E equal to 2 times of EB. Okay, so transmitted signal energy per symbol is twice the transmitted energy per bit. Therefore E equal to 2 times EB. Therefore replace this E by 2 times EB. If you do this, you will come to know that the average probability of symbol error for the QPSK is ERFC of square root of EB by N naught. Okay, this is what. Basically, I want to discuss something about offset QPSK. Okay, in case of QPSK, what happens whenever, if you just see this diagram, you will come to know that whenever, because this may be debit, you can say this may be message point 1, message point 2, message point 3, message point 4. That may be, this may be debit 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, whatever may be. When the debit changes from, let me say from debit 0, 0, suppose this is a debit 0, 0 and this is debit 1, 0. In the input bit sequence, the first debit, suppose it was 0, 0 and the next debit was 1, 0. Then there is a, in the QPSK signal, there is a phase shift of 180 degrees takes place here. Okay, let me say that this debit is 1, 1 and this is 0, 1. Okay, if in the input bit sequence, if the first debit was 1, 1 and the second debit was, let me say 0, 1, there is a phase shift of 180 degrees takes place in the QPSK signal. Whenever the phase shift is, let me say 90 degree, or it is abrupt phase change, 90 degree. First debit change was, first phase shift was 90 degree. Let me say from the debit changes from 0, 0 to 1, 1. Here the phase shift is only 90 degree. But the next debit is after 1, 1. Next debit is 0, 1. Then the phase shift of 0, 1 will take 180 degree will take place in the QPSK. Because of this abrupt phase change, what will happen? The amplitude of the QPSK signal, there is a, you can say, large variation in the amplitude of the QPSK signal will take place, and whenever such kind of a QPSK signal will be transmitted, through the band limited channel, then always it undergoes inter-symbol interface. This kind of error is always going to occur. Just to remove this, just to overcome this variation, we are always going for offset QPSK. In offset QPSK, what we are doing is we are transmitting the, basically we have the in phase component and we have the quadrature component. Okay, so what we are doing is we are delaying the quadrature, sequence by half a symbol interval. Means after half symbol interval only we are transmitting the you can say the quadrature component here. Therefore what will happen because of this, the phase change between any two bits will be always 90 degree. Let me say this is message point 1, message point 2, message point 3, message point 4. So even though here there is no crossing. Here the signal is not crossing for origin. Here the signal is crossing from origin. That indicates phase shift of 180 degree. Here there is no crossing of the signals from the zero. Whatever bit change takes place, maybe from message 1 to message 3 or message 2 to message 4. Okay, in all the cases the phase variation is limited only to pi by 4 maximum, either plus or minus pi by 2. In case of QPSK, it is a plus or minus 90 degree or plus or minus 180 degree. As in offset QPSK, the phase change in the output QPSK signal is limited to plus and minus pi by 2. Therefore, the amplitude variations in the QPSK signal will be minimized, or the QPSK signal will not undergo abrupt amplitude phase changes, and therefore the ISI, when such kind of signal is passed through the band limited channel, the ISI will not occur in such kind of a signal. That is called offset QPSK. This is called as a offset QPSK. Okay, so you can refer the this NPTEL link I have given here, exactly slide number 20 if you refer, where they explain the operation of a QPSK along with the waveforms and all.